Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're tackling just one amazing topic, tuberose, and really pulling apart all its layers, the history, the science, the culture. It's quite a flower.
It really is. Polyanthes tuberosa, often called the mistress of the night. And I think that name fits perfectly.
Why is that?
Well, it captures that intense, almost overwhelmingly creamy, sometimes described as erotic or even carnal scent. It's a flower that definitely makes an impression. A lot of contradiction there.
Okay, well, yeah, let's get into that. We've got some really comprehensive source material today. We're going to trace its journey, right? From like a simple bulb in the Americas all the way to being one of the most expensive perfume ingredients out there.
Absolutely. And it's not just about, a nice smell. This is a huge global industry, agriculture, chemistry, the works.
It's the absolute itself.
Yeah.
What's the signature scent profile?
It's incredibly complex, not just sweet. You get spiciness right at the start, almost a medicinal camphor-like lift. We can talk about the chemistry behind that. Then it becomes, solar, creamy, definitely fruity. But the thing it's famous for, that sort of lingering carnal femininity note.
That's the animalic part people talk about.
Exactly. That punch comes mainly from a molecule called indole. Gives it that heady, sometimes people say dirty quality.
Yeah.
Really sets it apart from, say, jasmine or gardenia.
Yeah.
Adds depth, maybe something a bit untamed.
Right. And the production scale is kind of mind-blowing, but also a bit misleading.
Totally. So it's native to Mexico, we know that.
Right.
But India is the absolute powerhouse for production now. We're talking something like 16,000 hectares growing tuberose.
Wow.
Yeah, yielding about 160,000 tons every year. Huge numbers.
But here's the twist, right?
Yeah, the twist is where it all goes. Only about 10%, just 10% of all that tuberose actually ends up in the perfume industry.
So where does the other 90% go?
It stays mostly domestic in India
Yeah.
for, local flower markets, incredible temple decorations, garlands for ceremonies, weddings. It's deeply woven into daily life and ritual there.
Okay, so our mission today is sort of twofold. Understand how that precious 10% gets harvested and turned into perfume. And also figure out how this one flower can be both sacred in temples and like the defining note in some seriously seductive perfumes. And then there's the whole pastry thing too.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to the surprising culinary angle. It's quite a journey.
All right, part one then. Let's start with the roots, literally, the botany and where it came from.
Okay, so tuberose, Polyanthes tuberosa. Its true home is Mexico. You'd find it growing wild in open forests, sandy soils. It's been there for ages.
And it had an indigenous name.
It did. The Aztecs called it Omixochitl.
Omixochitl, which apparently means bone flower. That sounds kind of stark for such a, fleshy flower.
It does sound strange, doesn't it? Historians aren't entirely sure. Omixl is don, Xochitl is flower in Nahuatl. That's what the Spanish physician Francisco Hernandez recorded in the 16th century when he was documenting plants for the Spanish king.
But maybe something got lost in translation?
That's one theory. Some think maybe the interpreters back then got it wrong, or maybe it originally meant something like twin flower, referring to how the buds grow in pairs.
Sure.
But yeah, the name bone flower stuck. And maybe that fed into the later European ideas about it being dangerous or linked to death.
Yeah.
Adds to the mystique, I guess.
So Hernandez brings it over to Europe in the 16th century. Spain, Italy, France.
Right. And for a time, Grasse in the south of France became a center for growing it.
But the big move, the one that really changed things, was to India, also in the 16th century.
Yes, that was crucial. Tuberose absolutely loves heat and sun. It needs that intensity to produce the best, richest oils. Grasse was okay, but it couldn't really compete with the tropical climate of India for quality and yield.
India just had the perfect conditions.
Exactly. Loads of sun, plenty of heat. It thrived there and almost immediately became part of the culture. Garlands, hair adornments, temple offerings. It just fit right in.
So it found this dual life, sacred and everyday in the East, a luxury perfume ingredient in the West.
Pretty much, yeah. Perfect summary.
Okay, before we dig into the Indian cultivation side, just a bit more on the plant itself. It grows from a bulb.
Yep, a bulbous perennial. Shoots up this tall spike, sometimes a meter high, covered in those distinctive white, waxy, tubular flowers.
And it takes its time.
It does. About 4 months for the plant to fully mature from the bulb. And for perfume, perfumers are mostly interested in the single-flowered type, the ones with 6 petals.
Not the double-flowered ones you sometimes see.
Those are usually more for decoration for the flower markets.
Yeah.
The single ones seem to yield a better quality absolute for fragrance.
Right. Now, the chemistry you mentioned, indole. What else makes tuberose smell like tuberose?
It's a complex cocktail. The main components are things like methyl isogenol, methyl benzoate, benzyl benzoate, and methyl salicylate.
Okay.
But the real character comes from what we call the impact components. Smaller amounts, but they define the scent. That's where you find methylanthranilate, eucalyptol, jasmine lactone, and, the star player, indole.
So what do those others do, methylanthranilate?
That gives it some of the creamy, almost grape-like or fruity notes. Eucalyptol adds that fresh, slightly camphoraceous green lift at the beginning.
And indole is the controversial one.
It is. You find it in lots of white flowers, but tuberose has a noticeable amount. In tiny traces, it's warm, deep, but in the concentration you find in the absolute. That's where you get the carnal, animalic, sometimes even dirty or slightly fecal description.
Wow, why?
Well, indole is also a molecule associated with decay, actually. So it's like the scent of the flower at its absolute peak, but also hinting at the end of its cycle, which ties back weirdly to that memento mori, remember you must die, symbolism later on.
Fascinating. And the methyl salicylate, that's the medicinal bit.
Exactly. It's like wintergreen. Gives tuberose that sharp, clean, almost camphor-like opening note. It's a really interesting contrast to the rich, creamy solar notes that come later.
You mentioned solar notes. What does that mean in perfume terms?
Yeah, good question. It's not a natural extract. It's more of an impression perfumers create.
Yeah.
Solar usually implies warmth, expansiveness, maybe a bit beachy, or even hinting at coconut.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why people often mention solar coconut with tuberose. It evokes that feeling of tropical heat.
Got it. So back to Grasse for a moment. It was the tuberose capital for a while, using that old enfleurage method.
Right, from the 17th century onwards, the Glover perfumers there considered it a prize ingredient.
Yeah.
But in flourish, wow, the work involved.
Explain that. It wasn't easy, was it?
Not at all. It's cold fat absorption. You'd have large glass trays coated with purified, odorless animal fat. Workers would painstakingly lay fresh tuberose blossoms onto the fat, one by one.
And they had to keep replacing them.
Constantly. Every day or so, the spent flowers were removed and fresh ones laid down. This went on for weeks, sometimes months, until the fat, called a pomade, was completely saturated with the flower scent molecules.
Just incredible dedication.
Then they'd wash that pomade with alcohol to dissolve out the fragrant oils and evaporate the alcohol to get the absolute. It was the only way then to capture the true scent without using heat, which would destroy it.
But incredibly slow and expensive.
Hugely. Grasse hit its peak tuberose production, about 60 tons, in 1924. But then came modern chemistry. After World War I, volatile solvent extraction was developed.
And that changed everything.
Completely. It was faster, much cheaper, more efficient. It basically made enfleurage for tuberose obsolete almost overnight.
So production moved.
It shifted quickly. Cheaper labor, better climate. Cultivation moved to places like Morocco, Egypt, and especially India. Grasse production just plummeted. By the 1970s, it was down to less than 4 tons. India really took over.
Okay, let's pivot to India then, part 2. The cultivation, the harvest, the value.
Right. India is the world leader now. Those 16,000 hectares are mainly in the south. Tamil Nadu, around Madurai and Sethamangalam, and southern Karnataka, near Mysore.
Because of the heat.
Exactly. That intense tropical heat, getting up to 35, even 40 degrees Celsius in summer, that's what the tuberose needs to produce lots of oil.
What are the big challenges for the farmers there?
Well, the bulbs stay in the ground for 2-3 years, so soil management is key. The harvest seasons is really long, pretty much March to December. But the biggest things are weeding. It has to be done by hand, carefully, because the roots are shallow and water. The roots rot easily if it's too wet. So careful irrigation, constant monitoring, it's very labor intensive.
And that 90% going to local markets. You said the price swings wildly.
Oh, massively. Depending on the day. Demand for weddings or festivals. A kilo of flowers might sell for as little as 40 US cents or as much as $12. Huge difference.
And if they don't sell by the end of the day?
Price crashes.
Yeah.
Maybe 60 cents a kilo for unsold, wilting flowers. That highlights the difference. Flowers for looking at versus flowers for extracting scent from.
Because the perfume industry needs peak freshness. And that means harvesting at a specific time.
Absolutely critical. This is where the mistress of the night thing becomes very real. Unlike the flower markets that pick in the morning, perfumed tuberose must be picked at night.
Why night?
Because that's when the flower emits the absolute maximum amount of its volatile oils. Specifically, the peak window is between about 8 p.m. and midnight.
So workers are out there picking by moonlight.
Yes. It's specialized work. If you wait till morning, some of those precious top notes start to degrade, oxidize. The night harvest captures the full, complex scent profile, and then speed is crucial.
They have to get them processed quickly.
Immediately. The flowers are often rushed to the extraction facility within an hour or two of picking. Processing might start around 1 a.m. to lock in that freshness.
Which leads to the incredible yield ratio and the price. Remind us of those numbers.
Okay, get ready for this. You need 10,000 kilograms of those perfectly picked, night-harvested flowers. 10 tons.
Wow.
To produce just 1.5 kilograms of Tuberose Absolute.
10,000 kilos down to 1.5. That's tiny.
It's an incredibly low yield. And that scarcity, plus the difficult night harvest, the multi-stage processing, that's why the final absolute costs between $12,000 and $13,000 per kilo.
Mind-boggling. It really is liquid gold.
It absolutely is.
Okay, part 3. Let's follow that process. How do they get from 10,000 kilos of flowers to 1.5 kilos of absolute? First step, solvent extraction for the concrete.
Right, since heat like steam distillation would ruin the delicate scent molecules, they use volatile solvents. This usually happens right there in India, near the fields in Karnataka or Mysore, to keep the flowers super fresh.
What does that look like? Is it big machinery?
Oh yeah, industrial scale. They use these huge vats, maybe 3,500 liters. They'll load in around 700 kilos of flowers at a time and immerse them in a solvent, typically hexane.
At room temperature?
Yeah, around 30 degrees Celsius. They do about 3 successive washes with the solvent to pull out as much of the aromatic material as possible. The whole washing process takes under 2 hours.
Then they remove the solvent.
Exactly. The solvent is evaporated off, usually under reduced pressure to be gentle. What's left behind is the concrete.
What's the concrete like?
It's this thick, waxy, sort of paste-like substance. And the yield here is already tiny. From those 700 kilos of flowers, you only get about 0.4 kilos of concrete. That's like a 0.06% yield.
So very little oil in the flower petals themselves.
Very little. India produces maybe 200 to 300 kilos of this concrete each year.
And that concrete often gets shipped elsewhere for the next step, often back to Grasse.
Yeah, Grasse still has a lot of the expertise and specialized equipment for purification. The concrete has too much wax in it to be used directly in perfumes. It needs refining.
So how did they get the absolute from the concrete?
They use an alcohol wash. They'll take a batch of concrete, say 50 kilos, and treat it with ethanol, warm ethanol, maybe around 60 degrees Celsius, for about an hour.
And the alcohol dissolves the good stuff.
Right. The alcohol dissolves the fragrant molecules, but leaves the heavier, odorless waxes behind, suspended in the liquid.
Then comes the icing step.
Yep, the chilling. They cool the alcohol solution way down, often to freezing 0 degrees Celsius. This makes the waxes solidify and clump together so they can be easily filtered out.
Why is that filtering so important?
It ensures the final absolute is clear and won't make the perfume cloudy or leave waxy residues. It's a crucial purification step.
Okay, waxes are out. Then what?
Then they carefully evaporate the alcohol, again under reduced pressure to protect the scent, and what you're left with is the final product. Tuberose Absolute. It's usually an orangish color, quite thick and viscous.
What's the yield from concrete to absolute?
It's much better here. You get about 26% yield from the concrete. So globally, we're talking maybe only 40 kilos of Tuberose Absolute produced each year.
Just 40 kilos for the entire world's perfume industry?
That's the estimate, yeah. Gives you an idea of how precious it is. And the scent profile of this Absolute, it's described as green, floral, creamy, still got those solar coconut hints, maybe some balsamic notes too.
But wait, there's more. For the really high-end stuff, there's molecular distillation.
Yes, one more level of refinement. This is super specialized, done in Grasse. It's basically a way to fine-tune the Absolute's scent profile even further.
How does that work without damaging it?
It uses vacuum distillation. They heat the Absolute gently under very low pressure and only for a very short time. The liquid gets spread into a thin film, and they can separate out different fractions of the scent.
What's the goal? What are they separating?
They're usually isolating what's called the heart fraction. This is the core tuberose scent, maybe about 50% of the Absolute. They remove some of the heaviest base notes, things that might feel a bit leathery or honeyed, and also some of the most volatile top notes.
To make it cleaner, easier to use.
Exactly. The resulting product is clearer, brighter. It emphasizes the floral, salicylic, that medicinal hint, and terpenic, green, fresh aspects. It's easier for perfumers to dose precisely in a complex formula.
Terpenic, what does that mean again?
Terpenes are common plant compounds. In scent terms, terpenic usually suggests that fresh, slightly sharp, almost piney or sabby greenness, like snapping a stem. It adds a bright contrast to the creaminess.
And this molecularly distilled version must be incredibly rare and expensive.
Oh, absolutely. Production is tiny, just a few kilos a year, reserved for the most exclusive, niche perfumes where cost is less of an object.
Right. Okay, let's shift gears. Part 4. The cultural life of tuberose. This flower has baggage, doesn't it? The lady killer flower in Europe versus the sacred flower in India.
It really does have this incredible duality. Let's start with Europe, 17th century. It developed this reputation, this pernicious symbolism. The scent was considered too strong, too sensual, almost indecent.
Wasn't there a story about women being forbidden to smell it?
Yes, the famous story from the court of Louis XIV. Young women were supposedly warned off smelling tuberose blooms because the scent was believed to be so intoxicating it could cause, well, fainting or spontaneous arousal. It was seen as a danger to modesty.
And writers picked up on this.
Oh, definitely. Colette's description, tip of a young breast, speaks to that fleshy, sensual quality.
Yeah.
But it got darker. Barbie d'Aurevilly's claim about it being able to kill men in childbirth, obviously hyperbole.
Obviously.
But it cemented this image of a dangerous, even murderous flower.
Which makes perfect sense for the 1980s in a certain perfume.
Exactly. Dior's Poison in 1985. They absolutely leaned into that historical taboo, the flower associated with danger, death, forbidden intoxication. Perfect for a perfume designed to be bold, provocative, unforgettable.
And this dark side shows up in art too, still life paintings.
Yes, especially 17th and 19th century Dutch and Italian still lifes. You often see tuberose included, but not just as decoration. It frequently served as a memento mori.
A reminder of death.
A reminder of the transience of life, beauty, pleasure. Artists would often show the tuberose with its stem broken or starting to decay, emphasizing its fleeting nature.
You mentioned Zola.
Right. The source referenced Zola's novel Nana, where the smell of decaying tuberoses is described as having a human smell.
Which brings us back to indole again.
Exactly. The very molecule that makes it smell carnal and alive is also part of the scent of decay. So the flower itself embodies that cycle of opulence and death. Photographers like Imogen Cunningham in the 1920s captured that too, those close-ups showing the waxy, almost skin-like texture, which she called its carnal pleasure.
Okay, now for the complete U-turn, tuberose in food.
Seriously, it's edible, apparently rich in vitamin C, traditionally used in soups in Java, interestingly. But the modern fine dining use is more recent, pioneered by chefs like Yves Thirion and Grasse. He calls it floral cuisine.
But how do you eat it? Isn't it kind of tough?
The fresh petals are too thick and waxy to chew comfortably.
Yeah.
Yes. So Thirion's clever trick is to dry the petals and then grind them into a very fine powder.
Ah, okay, like a spice.
Exactly. That powder mixes easily into fats like cream or into liquids. You get the flavor without the weird texture.
And what does tuberose taste like? Is it just floral?
It starts floral, yes, white flowers, orange blossom, definitely honey.
Uh-huh.
But then it gets more complex. You get green notes, a bit vegetal. And the aftertaste is where it gets really interesting. Hints of tobacco, dried fruits, caramel, even licorice and hazelnut. It's a whole journey.
Wow. So what do chefs do with a flavor profile like that?
It's surprisingly versatile. Thirion uses the powder and chantilly cream for desserts, which makes sense, but also in savory dishes. Imagine a salty sabayon sauce for oysters, flavored with tuberose.
Interesting pairing.
Or infused into the foam on top of razor clams. The idea is that the complex floral sweetness complements the richness of seafood.
And the source mentioned a pasta dish.
Right. Tagliatelle with dried tuberose flowers. That recipe shows how you can layer it. They mix the tuberose powder right into the pasta dough itself with the semolina and eggs.
Okay.
And they add a few drops of natural tuberose, extract the essential oil to boost the aroma. Then serve it simply, maybe with good olive oil. So you're getting the tuberose flavor and scent fully integrated into the dish. Pretty clever.
Very clever. All right, part 5. Let's bring it back to perfume. Its main stage. It's one of the most powerful scents out there.
Absolutely. Heady, bold, white floral, but with more.
Oof.
Than jasmine or orange blossom. Its history in perfume really comes in waves.
First wave. After the war.
Post-WWII glamour. Tuberose became the scent of opulent, confident femininity. The icon here is Robert Piguet's Fracas from 1948, a beautiful, creamy blend of tuberose absolute with jasmine and rose. It basically defined that luxurious, slightly dramatic style.
Then quiet for a bit until the 80s.
The 1980s, maximalism arrives. Subtlety is out. Tuberose comes roaring back in these huge statement fragrances. You had Giorgio Beverly Hills in 81, loud, fruity, almost bubblegum sweet tuberose. Very noticeable.
And Poison.
And Poison in 85, taking that dark history, wrapping the tuberose in plums, spices, resins. A real powerhouse designed to command attention.
The niche perfumery starts taking off in the 90s. Did they tame tuberose?
Not right away. Niche often celebrated the bits the mainstream smoothed over. Think Serge Luton's Tuberose Criminel from 1998. That one deliberately plays up the weird, medicinal, camphoraceous opening notes of the Absolute. It's intensely floral, but also sharp, cold, almost narcotic. Challenging.
What about trying to capture the flower more realistically?
That came a bit later. The modern benchmark is probably Frederic Mall's Carnal flower from 2005. Dominique Robion, the perfumer, supposedly spent years on it, using a massive dose of natural absolute. It aims for hyperrealism, the greenness, the creaminess, the slightly dewy, almost vegetal aspect of the living flower. Feels very lush, very natural.
And it's great that perfumers now are playing with its gender perception, too.
Definitely. Moving beyond just feminine, you see tuberose being paired with traditionally masculine notes, deep woods like oud or cedar, tobacco, strong ambre bases. It adds this amazing, unexpected, creamy floral complexity to those darker structures. As one expert put it, it might be the quintessence of femininity, but it's surprisingly versatile with masculine codes.
Cool. And one last point for perfumes that can't use the $13,000 a kilo absolute, they use accords, recreations.
Yes, tuberose accords are essential. Perfumers are incredibly skilled at rebuilding the scent profile using specific molecules. They'll use methyl anthranilate for the fruitiness, lactones for creaminess, methyl salicylate for that lift, eucalyptol for greenness.
Mimicking the natural components.
Exactly. Often supported by other white floral notes like ylang-ylang or orange blossom synthetics.
Yeah.
It might not have the same depth or complexity as the real absolute, but you can get a very convincing tuberose impression for a fraction of the cost. It makes the scent accessible.
Right. Okay, let's try and wrap this up. What are the big takeaways from this deep dive into tuberose?
Well, for me, it's the sheer paradox of it all. A Mexican flower finds its groove in India, becomes sacred there. Yet the tiny fraction harvested at night under specific conditions becomes this ultra-luxury, sometimes dangerous-seeming ingredient in the West.
Yeah, that economic split is still staggering. 90% for everyday local use, selling for maybe a few dollars a kilo.
If that.
While the other 10% extracted with all this technology commands thousands and thousands. It really shows you what goes into capturing a scent.
And that final thought, that lingering contradiction, its history links it to toxicity, danger, the bone flower name. The chemistry itself balances decay in medicine with indole and methyl salicylate. How does a flower that suggests both death and healing become the ultimate symbol of intense life, seduction, pure opulence?
It really makes you think about the power we invest in scent, doesn't it? That line between danger and desire.
Absolutely.
Well, we hope this deep dive into the truly intoxicating world of tuberose was informative, maybe even a little provocative. Lots to think about there.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration.
And please do visit Squiffson to learn more. Thank you for listening to my podcast. See you next episode. Bye.